It's Roger once again, Mudfossil University, with a true, valid discovery of a giant fish right here being attacked by a giant dragon right here. 100% valid. Nobody can dispute this if they looked at it with an open mind. And these are the scales of the dragon throat, which runs all the way up to his head, and that's the fluty stuff on the side of dragons. It runs all the way up through his head and then into the place where the injectors squirt in these chemicals right here. You see that? These are the chemicals that kill things that they squirted onto. And there's injectors up here and injectors down here. And when they mix them together, it comes out of this dragon's throat. Here's his head. Comes right out here, and it creates this stuff here. And that stuff is as toxic as it gets. It is virtually identical to the most lethal venoms from lethal snakes. As it came down here, it literally combusted. So here we have the dragon up here. He spit the stuff out here towards this fish. As it hit this particular area, it literally exploded and combusted. Now, whether it's fire, I don't know, but it's some kind of noxious, toxic chemical that invaded this entire area. And as it came down, it hit the fish's fin here. That's a fish's fin. And it hit it with power. And it ate into the fish's vital flesh right here. And it killed that vital flesh. Whether it killed the fish, I don't know. But the fish obviously is not alive now. If that was the source of the fish dying, I have no clue. But this is a fish, and these are its scales. It means it's going this way, because the scales, when they're going this way, the water rolls over them. And that's his tail. And that is what is reality. Now, let's go a little further than that, because what's being avoided is not correct, and I want to set the record straight. Now, my problem is with my mud fossils is nobody will pay any attention to it. They say it's fake and it's fraud and it's all this business. Well, it's absolutely 100% validated with CAT scans and DNA tests and anatomists who owns his own autopsy school, chemistry, everything. And this is the same thing that happened here. Now listen to this.
Don't rock the boat. Immediately, everyone jumps on them and says, no, they're fake. They're frauds. So the Israelis, every institution in the world say, no, don't believe anything they say because they're frauds. And it makes you wonder if a real discovery, and maybe this is one, comes out. Will anyone believe it? Is everyone that intent on maintaining the status quo?
The answer to that is yes. The institutions I have presented this to, Yale, Harvard, Johns Hopkins, and a slew of others, refuse to have anything to do with it and denounce it as being wrong without inspecting a single thing. And I have asked for this. Now, let's go a little further. All right, so we talked about dragons. We talked about what my feeling is. Now you have your own feelings, and if this upsets you, well, I'm sorry. That's just what I'm showing is what I'm showing. Now, this is the Gnostic Society Library. This is Pistis Sophia, and this is all about these Gnostic texts. Gnostic means to know, knowledge, understanding. All right? And in this book, Jesus comes back to earth after he was crucified, and he speaks with his disciples. They said for 11 years, and this book is a very, very, very complicated, detailed, intricate, interwoven into every other story in all of the historical texts about the early Christianity and all of the early Egyptians, all of that stuff. It's all there. Now, and he talks about, well, wait till you hear what he talks about. So, we're up to chapter 126. It's very, very, very hard reading. And you really have to, it's not for everybody, but you really should try if you can if you can. And here's what happens. Pistis Sophia has literally stolen power from the treasury of light to create her own universe here and cause a big problem. And she's begging for forgiveness. And Christ is forgiving her. And he is also telling his disciples and his mother Mary and Mary Magdalene and all of them. Philip is writing down everything he's saying, and he's said, I will discourse with you and tell you every single thing, and I won't say it with similitude, which means I won't cloud up anything. I will make it crystal clear. And so Mary, I believe this is not his mother Mary, but this is Mary Magdalene, who is the most revered of all of them, it appears. She's asking him more questions. So then here it goes. It says, and Mary continued again and said unto Jesus, in what type is the outer darkness, or rather how many regions of chastisement are there in it? The outer darkness, he said, I will show you from the interior of the interior to the exterior of the exterior. Now, apparently that means our realm, the interior of the interior, and the exterior of the exterior is the realm of these dragons. All right, dragons are no longer in question. Absolutely not in question anymore. They were here, they were gigantic, and they were written about in the Gnostic texts. In every single society and culture, the Bible, the Norse, the Koreans, every Asian culture, they loved dragons there. They hated dragons down in other areas where there was different types of dragons. Now, listen to this. This is the Gnostic Society Library. I'm not telling anybody what to believe. I am just telling you what was written, and I look deeply. I don't just, and so don't tell me, oh, you can't look at that, you can't look at that. Well, you make your own decision. And if you don't want to look at it, that's fine. Just go somewhere else. But I am presenting this as an unknown. It's an unknown. I don't know. I don't know the Bible's right either. Everybody's, oh, you have to believe every word in the Bible. No, I don't. I don't have to believe any word of any word. I have to believe what I see makes sense to me. So I look. And that's what Jesus said too. He says, you better keep looking. Because when you think you found it, you didn't find it. And I'm still finding things that I didn't find, and I'm going to be finding things forever because I didn't find them. And here's what happens. Listen to this. This is Pistis Sophia. It's a book that was discovered 1773, an ancient manuscript of Jesus coming back to earth after being crucified and speaking with his disciples. And this is Mary Magdalene is asking him questions. And they ask him every single question you can imagine. And wait till you hear the answers. I don't know if they're right or wrong, but here's what it says. And Jesus answered and said unto Mary, the outer darkness is a great dragon, whose tail is in his mouth, outside the whole world and surrounding the whole world. And there are many regions of chastisements, which is punishments, within it. There are 12 mighty chastisement dungeons, and a ruler is in every dungeon, and the face of the rulers is different one from another. And their faces are dog faces and cat faces and crocodiles, and I mean, I'm serious. And they change them every hour. So it's insane. I'm telling you, it's insane. However, the dragons were real. Nobody's taken this and looked at it with any kind of thought process. Now let's go to the end of this chapter, because it speaks about all the 12 rulers and how their original faces, they can shapeshift. Now listen to this. This is the part that gets to me, because they tell you how you can get into heaven and how you can ascend into the light. Now it says, these rulers then of these 12 dungeons are inside the dragon of the outer darkness. Each and every one of them hath a name, every hour a new name, and every one of them change his face every hour. They change their face. And moreover, every one of these dungeons hath a door opening upwards, so that the dragon of the outer darkness has 12 dark dungeons, and every dungeon has a door opening upwards. An angel of the height watcheth each of the doors of the dungeons. So there's a watcher up there. Now, you, it says, whom you, which is the first man, that's what it says here, you, who was the first man, the overseer of the light. And we are supposed to become light, and then we have no more physical body, and we ascend and transcend and become anything we want. And we never have hunger or illness or anything. So this, the first man, is the overseer of the light, the envoy of the first commandment, who is God. He hath established as watchers, all right, the watchers of the dragon, so that the dragon and the rulers of his dungeons who are in him may not mutiny. And that is exactly what happened. This talks about all the things that the watchers mutinied. All I can tell you is, let's go a little deeper. All right, this was on the Science Channel. Now I want you to listen to this.
Is found in the Bible today. So what conclusions can be drawn from the studies of the scrolls? And what stunning revelations are yet to be discovered?
Do you think that there are still secrets hidden within the scrolls, within the documents, that we are yet to find out?
The scrolls have disintegrated to so many small fragments, and the assortment of these fragments, it's like a huge number of jigsaw puzzles that we're still playing with. So every year there's a new publication, more than one publication, which offers a new identification of fragments, a new assortment, new joint.
All right, I'm just going to cut to the chase here. There is continuously being more documents uncovered, and the Nag Hammadi texts are one of the most complete sets of texts. I think there's like 850 books, some kind of huge number of texts. A lot of them were communications and letters and so forth, but there was several seriously powerful books in there, like Enoch and so forth. Now, they talked about giants. They talked about everything, and they also talk, as they all do, about dragons. And of course, you know, every culture. I'm not specifically focusing on the Bible and Christianity or any specific religion. However, there was a lot of writing about Christianity, and that's where I have looked deeply, because Jesus, if it's right, and I can't say it's right, I can't say it's wrong, I have no idea. However, I see things in the Nag Hammadi text that I cannot discount, because they line up with all the other texts, and they're extremely detailed, and they fill in a huge number of areas that I had no clue about. And if it's true, it really fills in a lot of voids. So I'm going to look at it. You look at it, you make your own decision. But this, what this guy here is saying is that there is a ton of texts out there. There's always going to be revelations, and everybody's going to have their own take on what exactly these things mean. So we're going to be talking about a book called Pistis Sophia, and it was uncovered in 1773, and it date back, they say it looks like it's from 300-ish AD. But all of these texts were recopied and so forth. Then they were hidden because they weren't allowed, they weren't permitted. You would be killed if you had that text. So they hid them in these caves. And these are end times texts. And guess what? As I've been saying right along, follow the clues. They're hidden for 1,700 years because they weren't allowed. The Catholic Church, in my opinion, went rogue, started trouble. You know, the people that were running it decided to run it as a business, and hiding things, and it became untruthful, and all kinds of bad things happened. In my mind, I could be wrong, but that's the way I saw it. And then all of a sudden, the end times texts show up in 1945. What's unique about 1945? The end of World War II. What's unique about the end of World War II? The Jews are getting out of the Holocaust. What's unique about that? They were just slaughtered, and now they get their own state. And these texts in multiple caves, show up. The Nag Hammadi, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and I think there was other ones here and there that are considered parts of the Dead Sea Scrolls and parts of the Nag Hammadi. There were additional caves even, I believe. I'm pretty sure of that. You know, I could be wrong about that, but even it doesn't matter. There's a huge number of texts discovered, and they have been studied for the last 50 years. And the things in them are just absolutely stunning. And they change a lot of the way people felt about the early Christianity stories. They don't always line up exactly. And now we're going to be looking at Pistis Sophia, which is not part of this Nag Hammadi or the other one, but it is one of these ancient texts. And there's other ones that were found, like, I think it's like the Gospel of Peter, something like that, was found buried on the chest of a monk. And that's where they found that one. Now, I don't know where they found Pistis Sophia, but I think it was in a collection of ancient manuscripts by kings and all these things, these noble people. They used to collect them, and they had huge, huge, huge libraries of these things. And because there was so much writing about this so back then, because it was so spectacular. They didn't just pen off these books just to have a nice time. I can write a more spectacular book than you. I'll make it bigger dragons than you have. No. Not in my mind. All right, so let's see what they had to say. Let's see what Jesus has to say. Because if you see what he has to say, you know, it talks about 12 zones, 12 dragons circling the earth with the dragon with his mouth and his tail. And you see this stuff in ancient stories, Aurora Boreas. All of these things are written about. And the Norse and the Asian cultures of Hong Kong is supposed to be made of 7 dragons, and it is made of creatures. That I can absolutely guarantee you, no question whatsoever. I looked at the biogeology there, and it is biology, and it is tendons primarily. And they said there was, I believe it was 7 dragons make up Hong Kong, and the 8th one is the emperor. He was the emperor. Now, I don't know. You can't grasp this as a human being. You cannot grasp this coming from where we came from. You cannot get your mind to understand this, and I can't either. So don't think your mind's weak or anything, because I'm telling you, my mind's not weak, and I have no clue how this could have happened or how all this spectacular events were possible. I believe, I understand that. People say, well, it's impossible, it can't be, physics and geology. Well, no. It's here. You got to deal with it. Now, let's see what was written about. That's the only where I can go, because everything, not a single word has ever been told to me about this. Not a single syllable, not a vowel about this. Right? Because nobody knows about this, and nobody ever knew about this since the time it happened, apparently. And I think within a very, very short time, you would just dismiss all this as being nonsense. And it was dismissed. Now, I know they were still fighting dragons into the medieval times. That's what they said they were doing, and I now am believing it. They'd go out, and the knights would go off and slay a dragon. I'm going with that.